we have a chance to negotiate a comprehensive agreement that prevents a nuclear-armed Iran, secures America and our allies, including Israel, while avoiding yet another Middle East conflict. There are no guarantees that negotiations will succeed, and I keep all options on the table to prevent a nuclear Iran. But new sanctions passed by this Congress at this moment in time will all but guarantee that diplomacy fails.
The president laid down his law about Iran once again Tuesday night. He will not take the Republican bait and drop a heavier hammer on Iran. Not only that, but the war in Afghanistan is over, according to the chief executive. Well, we've heard his words. Now let us seek some truth without the podium embellishment. It is a pleasure to welcome back to Midpoint Deputy Director of the Washington, D.C. office of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, born in Iran, also author of The Iran Threat, President Ahmadinejad and the Coming Nuclear Crisis. Alireza Jafarzadeh joins us. Alireza, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure, Ed.
Let's get into exactly what the president said. He said that if we slap down further sanctions on Iran, basically it's the wrong thing to do. It will cut off the entire negotiation process here, and it will basically mean that we fail in getting Iran to buckle under. Do you agree with him?
Absolutely not. It's not that I don't agree with him, because it's really the Congress that is opposing that view, especially some key Democrats. Today there was a hearing when Tony Blinken was here in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He's the Deputy Secretary of State, and key Senate Democrats, including Senator Menendez, argued back, saying that what these sanctions in waiting is actually doing is giving the leverage to the President of the United States, something he now lacks. Because absent of these sanctions in waiting, which basically closes the loophole of the deadline, it makes the deadline unextendable after twice extensions, forcing Tehran to make a decision and finally comply. Because otherwise, remember, these talks were supposed to be 6 months. It's been a year and a half, and there are a few more months left of the deadline. And today, Tony Blinken hinted that they may actually extend it again if it's necessary. So Congress is saying, you know, where's the end? And we need to close it. And the sanctions and waiting bill actually helps closing the loop and giving the leverage to the president.
Okay, Alireza, we're going around and around in circles here. We always have when it comes down to Iran and the president of the United States here. So here's a simple question that somebody posed to me just yesterday. What does the president see that the rest of us don't? He must know something if he continues to talk like this and says we need to negotiate. What can he possibly know?
Well, this is a question that was raised during the hearing as well, that how is it that, he can have the final say, but the Congress cannot. I think perhaps that the president, or those who are advising him on policy, suggest that the more concessions you give to Iran, the more careful you are in terms of the negotiations, and really being approaching them softly will actually increase the possibility of success. Whereas in reality, knowing the mentality of the mullahs ruling Iran over the past 35 years, the way they have operated is exactly the opposite. The only way you can get them to comply with their international commitments is by decisiveness. It was the sanctions that actually brought them to the negotiating table, not talking to them softly or giving them concessions. So I think that's where the main difference of view actually lies.
Alireza, if you had to guess from your sources and knowing what you know about the country of Iran, how far along would you think that they have come in preparing for the nuclear weapon, preparing for when they actually are able to do this out in the open right now? What are they doing that we don't know or that we don't hear enough about?
Well, that's a good question, Ed, because there's a lot of talk about uranium enrichment. That's the part that the world knows more about it than other parts of it, thanks to the revelations of the main Iranian opposition, the National Council of Resistance of Iran, that exposed all the major nuclear sites of Iran where they're actually doing enrichment. They know, based on the sites that are already known, the level of enrichment, how much enriched uranium they have and all of that. But that's only a portion of the whole program, because In addition to fissile material, you need the technology and the know-how to actually build the bomb, what they call the weaponization. That part has been totally off limits to the outside world. The IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, has had no access to the suspected sites where they are actually conducting, high explosive tests and other tests that are necessary for building the bomb. There are 2 other major nuclear sites that have been off limits to the IAEA, and there's no prospect for them to have access to them. And then comes the delivery system, the missile program that Iran has that is extremely advanced. That has not been even talked about. So that's why I'm thinking, how in the world can we have a guarantee that Iran is not building the bomb when you have no way of, verifying things on the ground?
I got about 90 seconds left here. The Revolutionary Guard in Iran says that Israel will be punished for killing one of its generals in an airstrike in Syria that also killed 6 Lebanese Hezbollah fighters. There are some people who believe that Iran right now is getting ready for a surprise attack at Israel. Do you agree?
Well, the Revolutionary Guards have always come up with different surprises, and this is not the first time. They were involved in the bombing of the Marine barracks in 1983, the Howard Tower bombing in Saudi Arabia in 1996, and a whole host of other attacks. The part that I'm really bothered with is that the new budget that the Iranian regime proposed by the so-called moderate Rouhani, while the oil revenue has gone down sharply, has allocated about a 50% increase in the budget of the Revolutionary Guard. So you would think, what is that extra budget for? Make your own conclusion.
With regard then to the president, what would you, about 30 seconds left, what would you have liked to have heard him said last night?
I think if I were in his position, I would welcome the position of Congress, but he would say that, I hear you. If the Congress wants to go ahead and help me with that, with additional sanctions, which is, by the way, is not against the joint plan of action, that I think it would have empowered him and opened the door to working with both Democrats and Republicans in Congress. And that's what, other members of Congress are also expecting.
Obviously, he does not want to work, certainly not on this issue. Alireza Jafarzadeh, thank you so much for joining us, Alireza. We'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. When we come back, Governor Mike Huckabee has said some rather interesting things about the Supreme Court and gay marriage. And it flies right in the face of the Supreme Court itself. Michael Brown joins us around the dial when we come back right here on Midpoint.